Hi everyone, it's TheTidesChanging here, and welcome to another Sims 4 speed build. Since today is Valentine's Day, I decided to make a honeymoon cottage that I've called Honeymoon Hideaway. It was suggested, I think, a couple of speed builds ago by someone that I make a honeymoon cottage for Valentine's Day, and I thought that was a really cute idea, so I wanted to give it a try, and it's always fun to make themed speed builds. But I hope you'll have an awesome day even if you aren't doing the whole Valentine's Day thing. Personally, I'm not really doing the typical Valentine's Day thing myself. My boyfriend and I are actually going to an anti-Valentine's Day party, and I don't think it's gonna be one of those like, black hearts, love is evil kind of things. I think it's just gonna be more of like a neutral kind of a thing, like not really mushy Valentine's Day stuff, but not really the complete opposite of that with the I hate love kind of stuff. Like it's just gonna be more of hanging out with some friends, having a good time, something, doing an alternative to the whole like going out on a date with your significant other kind of a thing, which I'm cool with because it is kind of annoying to go out on Valentine's Day because the restaurants are packed, and then some restaurants like don't even have, you can't even get things off the regular menu, like you have to get these really expensive 3-course meals, and it's just ridiculous, and it's just, I don't know, it's just really hectic, and to me that's not really romantic. I don't think, the whole time we've been together, I don't think we've actually gone out on Valentine's Day. I think usually if we do, it's like a day or two before or after or something like that, because it's just ridiculous on Valentine's Day. So like, I don't know, I'm not really a huge fan of the typical Valentine's Day stuff because it just gets kind of ridiculous and over the top, so I'm fine with just hanging out with friends instead of doing all of that, and I think it'll be really fun. Now I'm going to get on to the actual build though. So as you can see, this is more of a modern lake cabin and not really the traditional rustic type cabin. And I was originally going to do a rustic cabin, but since I had a speed build of a rustic cabin up last week and I'm also working on a rustic inn, I thought it'd be good to do something different and try out a modern cabin, which I have been wanting to try anyway, and plus I've been getting requests from people to try more modern houses, so I felt like just a modern cabin would be really good to do. And it was a lot of fun to make this and to do something different than what I normally have, because it's been quite a while since, well, I guess the collab build that I did was a modern one, but I didn't furnish the house. So this is the first full-on, like, modern build that I've completely done in a while. But I do like how the modern windows give really beautiful views of the lake and the forest in front of the house. And with this cabin, I actually made the door going into the cabin on the side rather than in the front, so you just got these big open windows in the front of the cabin that give some really nice views. Even though this cabin is modern, I still wanted it to fit in with the forest surroundings, so I tried to give it more of an eco-modern kind of a look, I guess, and it took me a little bit to figure out the right wallpaper for it. But in case you didn't notice, this is a 2-bedroom cabin. Because even though it's supposed to be more for a couple going away, I thought it'd be good to put a second bedroom in and make it a little bit more versatile so that you could use it for a family camping trip. And I didn't make it like over the top romantic looking, like it's more so just red accents here and there. So it's not too Valentine's Day themed that you can't use it for just family trips. But this is the wallpaper that I ended up settling on for the exterior, so I just used that light green clapboard, which I thought had somewhat of a rustic look to it that fit in with the whole cabin forest kind of a theme, but it also has a bright eco kind of I guess kind of an eco-modern look. Like I just really liked how it looked, like the green just made it tie nicely with the surroundings, and it looks really neat too because I didn't want to make it a dark color like I've been making the, like I made Hemlock Haven and the Rustic Inn. I want to do something different, just make this place very bright. I did use that rock wallpaper in a few spots to break up the green clapboard. It did drive me nuts a bit though that the rock on the wall and the foundation didn't completely match, but once I did the landscaping and everything, you can hardly tell the difference, so it ended up fine in the end. And I think I might actually like this cabin more than Hemlock Haven. Like I just really love the bright colors on it. It's just so fun looking and cheerful. It's a nice change up from the darker colors I've been using on the builds lately. But right now I'm putting in the columns on the decks, and I did use the columns that came with Outdoor Retreat just because I wanted to add some rustic elements to this place. I didn't want it to be so modern that it was out of place, so I thought it was fun just to give some little touches to it to make it look sort of rustic, like the clapboard and these columns that you see here. And I do like how the porch comes around from the side around to the back. And then, of course, you have some stairs that go out into the backyard, and that glass door in the back of the house is actually off of the master bedroom because I did want the master bedroom to have its own entrance to the back deck. Right here, I was trying to mess around with the walls a bit though to see if I could have a different type of foundation underneath the rock area because it just kept driving me nuts so much how the foundations didn't match. But then I did end up just putting the rock back in because I thought it looked kind of weird just to have the concrete in that one spot, and then the concrete itself looks sort of odd. So I think at this point I just realized that once I did the landscaping it would all be fine anyway. So now I'm just moving around to the back of the house and changing the trim on the flat roof a bit. And here's where I'm starting the actual landscaping. So I wanted to have it look like a wooden step walkway going up to the stairs. I thought that'd be kind of cool and alternative to just a simple dirt path. So I just used that wood flooring there. It's the same wood flooring that I used on the decks and just made it look kind of like sort of like stepping stones, I guess, but wood instead. I did originally want to use shelves to do that, but then when I tried putting the shelves on the ground, they were floating a slight bit, which doesn't really work that well. You know, you realistically wouldn't have floating steps, so I had to scrap that and then just use the floor tiles. I would have preferred it if the shelves worked though, because I feel like the floor tiles are a little bit too wide. Like I kind of wanted narrower steps, but I do still think it looks neat in the end though. And I also put a couple of trees in the front yard there, so you have that pine tree right there in the corner, and now I'm just sticking some plants around it. I also put that large tree in the other corner, and I really do like that large tree that came with Outdoor Retreat. I have been using it pretty frequently, or, you know, at least in all of the Outdoor Retreat builds that I've done so far, and I'm also working on putting some plants under this tree as well. And for the landscaping in this yard, I wanted to go for a very lush, full kind of a look. Like there's just a lot of plants all over the place in this yard, like more plants than I've been using recently. Like I just stuck plants everywhere because I thought it would really fit in with the whole natural kind of a look. And I figured that this is the kind of cabin that maybe was built in like the 70s. I guess it could be kind of that 60s/70s modern type of style. The clapboard especially makes me think of that. So I figure that since this is a style cabin that perhaps could have been here for several decades, it's realistic that there would just be a lot of growth around it. So I really do like how all the landscaping looks. I actually think the modern architecture from the 70s is pretty cool. I don't really like the interior design from the 70s, like the mold green carpets and, what was it, harvest gold appliances. Like that just kind of looks ugly, but I do think that the architecture itself and the design of the homes is pretty interesting. So I think it's really neat when you have a home that was made in the 70s but has been updated with new appliances and all of that. Like I just think that's really cool, and I think it'd be pretty awesome to own a house like that. But as you can see, I did put a pool in the deck right there because I did want to have a pool, but I didn't want it to be, I wanted the pool to be kind of be more subtle, so I thought it'd be kind of cool to just have it in the deck like that. So I guess it's sort of an infinity pool. But now moving back to the front yard and putting some more plants in there and just filling it in a little bit more. So I did stick that little bit of plants in the front there, and then here I'm just joining the garden that was in front of the house with the garden that was underneath of the tree, because I thought it would look nice if the front yard was just filled in a little bit more. So the front yard ends up being pretty filled in with plants, but for the time being I'm moving around the side of the house and just putting some dirt in underneath of the foundation, then also putting some plants in along the side of the house. While I'm doing the landscaping and all of that, I did want to talk about something really quick. So some of you may have already noticed this, but I sped up the speed build less than I normally do. I only sped this one up about 6 times, whereas normally I speed up my speed builds by 8 times. And the reason why I made this one a little bit slower is because in the comments of the last speed build, someone pointed out that it seemed like I had a little bit of trouble talking over the speed builds because they're going so fast. Like they're going so fast that it's kind of hard to get all my thoughts out, and I'm just rushing to try and say everything I want to say. And I thought about that, and I realized that they might be right, so I wanted to try doing the speed builds a little bit slower to see whether it's easier, whether you all preferred, whether it is easier for me to do the commentary. And I actually do think that I prefer the speed, because I find that it's a little bit easier to commentate over because things aren't going by so fast. Like, I can very easily tell what's going on at each point, and I have a little bit more time to get my thoughts out, so I'm not rushing and talking so quickly. So personally, I'm fine with continuing to do it at 6 or 7 times speed rather than 8 times speed, despite the fact that it makes speed builds a little bit longer because it is easier to see. But I was just curious what you all thought on this, like whether you would prefer that the speed builds be a little bit longer and slower, or whether you prefer that they just be fast and over as quick as possible. So let me know what you think, like whether you find this speed easier to watch and would like me to continue doing speed builds at this speed. I'm not sure what I'm going to do for really large houses though, like maybe I'll just end up with really large speed builds, or maybe I'll do like speed up the exterior 7 times and then the interior 6 times, because it is a little bit hard to see everything that's going on in the interior at 8 times speed, like things just go by so quick. But I am really interested in hearing your thoughts on this. But getting back to the actual build, as you can see, I just made the corner of the deck there diagonal. I thought it would look a little bit better, a little less harsh than having it be squared off, and now I'm just continuing on the landscaping back here a bit, just bringing all those plants around. I also finished the front landscaping too, and as you can see, I just filled it in a lot. I also changed that tree in the front there to be the crooked one, so it covered a little bit of the house. I know the trees in the front of the house do kind of hide it a bit, but I did want this place to be sort of secluded and private looking, because with those large windows, you don't want to have things be completely open. Like, I think just having the trees there give a little bit more of a sense of privacy. But moving on to the backyard, I was originally going to put in an eating area in the back, like kind of like what I did with Hemlock Haven, like with those stone picnic tables put together. But that did take up a lot of space though, especially since this is on a 30 by 20 lot, so it has a lot less space than what I built Hemlock Haven in, or on, and like those picnic tables just take up a whole lot of space, but I did keep them there for a little bit though, and I just kind of did it in a similar way to what I did in Hemlock Haven, and now I'm continuing the landscaping in the backyard in the similar way that I did in the front yard, so just really filling things in with a lot of plants. And I do think it looks really pretty having all those plants right up against the pool, and I'm sure that swimming in that pool would be pretty scenic, especially since I think with the water going all the way up to the edges, that's technically an infinity pool where it just looks like it doesn't really have an edge and kind of keeps going. Although I guess you can sort of see the edges, so maybe it's not really an infinity pool. But either way, I think it is kind of neat having the plants go all the way up to it, and I think at this point I'm actually just about done putting all of the plants in, so now I'm just doing the terrain paint underneath of them, you know, just putting in the dirt underneath of them and all of that, and just bringing the garden out a little bit. So here's where I realized that I still had to fit in a fire pit and a horseshoe pit in this yard, and there wasn't a whole lot of space left, because I just felt like since it's a cabin, it should have both of them, like it just wouldn't be complete without that in it. But I was trying to put some more plants in and all that stuff though, and then I was trying to put the horseshoe pit in right there, but then I realized that it was way close to the eating area, so then I tried the other side and then just seemed sort of cramped over there, and I had to get rid of that tree in the corner, which I really liked, and then plus I just feel like that placement looked sort of odd, and then here I did place a nice tree in those plants right there. So here's where I was trying to make the picnic area take up a little bit less space by putting in the diagonal floor tiles, and then I also tried putting some more plants behind it to make it fit in a little bit better, and then I also was trying to fit in the fire pit right there, and here's where I just got rid of that dining area because I realized it was just taking up way too much space in the yard, and that since this is a cabin that fits a maximum of 4 people, you don't really need to have a huge eating area like this. Like, it's not like Hemlock Haven where you can sleep up to 8 Sims in it and you might need a large eating area like that. So I figured that it would be better just to put a smaller eating area up on the deck rather than having all that space down in the yard taking up, you know, room that I needed for the horseshoe pit and for the fire pit. So it did fit in a lot better having the yard arranged like this, and then I just had some dirt paths going to the horseshoe pit and the fire. Then after putting those items in, I still felt like the yard didn't look completely right, like it just needed a little something else, like just something in it needed to be changed, so I was trying to add more plants, and I put in flower terrain paint, and then I ended up getting rid of the plants that were towards the back of the yard, because I felt like it was a little bit much. It was probably best just to keep the plants closer to the house. And then I figured that maybe the thing that the yard needed was replacing the dirt path coming off the stairs with the stone path you see here, and then having the dirt just underneath the horseshoe pit and the fire pit. So I think that change made the backyard look a lot better. So at that point, I'm done with the actual landscaping, so now I'm moving on to furnishing the decks. So on the side porch here, I just wanted to have some chairs, you know, have a nice little seating area past the door. I didn't want to have them in front of the door because, you know, you don't want to block the entrance to the house, so I just felt like it would be better to have it a little bit farther back from that. So as you can see, I used the more, I guess, modern benches, and then I was going to use the stone end table, but then I just thought that one that I used there looked a little bit better, and then I was putting the Stanley the Jackalope statue and a plant on either side of the door. And then I was trying to figure out the placement of the night lighting before continuing with the furnishing, so I'm just putting those modern lights all around the sides of the house and in the pool and all of that, just trying to make sure everything was very well lit. Oh, I also forgot to mention that I didn't put a ladder going into the pool because the Sims don't really need it, and I felt like it looked a little bit better without the ladder, so I just didn't put one in. As you can see, I did also put some lights up on top of the roof just to brighten a bit there. I then moved the door over one tile to the edge because of the kitchen needed to fit in next to it, and having the door where it was originally just took up some of the space that was needed for the kitchen. But here I'm putting in the dining area that's outdoors, so it's just a table with 4 chairs around it. I think that's all the outdoor eating space that's needed with this place, and I do like how it's right next to the calm. I was thinking about taking the calm out, but I thought it was kind of cool having the table right up next to it. But now I'm actually moving on to the interior, so I started off by just bringing out the master bathroom one tile, and then a little bit of the master bedroom out one tile, because I wanted to have a break in that wall because I thought it looked a little bit boring just having that straight wall in the back. And also I did that so it kind of set apart the kitchen, because I was going to have just the one wall come out, because you'll see where the kitchen is a little bit. It's in this corner right here, and it goes up to where that bump out is, and I thought that would just be a nicer looking way to give some separation to the kitchen. Before doing any furnishing though, I'm actually putting up the wallpaper first because I really wanted to go for a traditional modern cabin. Like, I was trying to make it look like what a typical modern cabin would, and when I looked up pictures of them, I found that most of them had a mix of wood or just white plaster on the walls. So I just wanted to get some white plaster up on the walls, and then I did use some with baseboard molding just to, I guess, give a rustic traditional touch, and I really do like how that looks. As far as the furnishing in the kitchen goes, I used those industrial type counters because I didn't want to use the full-on modern ones, because I still wanted to have some wood in the cabinets, because this is a cabinet after all, so I didn't want to go super modern with it. I just wanted to have a little bit of rustic traditional touches with wood in them. And at first I tried putting up the cabinets that matched the counters that I used, but I didn't really like how they looked, so I actually used the all-black modern cabinet. So I thought it was kind of cool mixing and matching those and just using counters and cabinets that came with a different set. I also used the nicest stove and refrigerator that came with the game. So this place has a very, very nice kitchen. Like, it might be a better kitchen than what your Sims houses have, unless you're playing with really wealthy Sims though, but I know I rarely put the most expensive kitchen equipment in my houses. And I also put a nice counter island here. This cabin actually doesn't have a dining room because it's not very big, and trying to put a dining table just took up a lot of space. And since it's only, you're only going to have 2 to 4 people go on a trip to this cabin, I felt like just having 4 bar stools was sufficient enough seating. I also put a window in above the sink because originally there wasn't a window there, but I just felt like it looked sort of depressing to not have a window in the kitchen roll, so I just put that nice one above the sink, and I really do like how that looks. I actually struggled with the interior of this cabin a bit. Like, I actually started on the interior and spent like 2.5 hours on it, like just on the main area here, and then I ended up completely scrapping it because I just didn't like anything I did. Like, I was using the most modern cabinets and then mixing it with the rustic furniture that came with Outdoor Retreat, and it actually looked really bad, and I kept getting frustrated, and I kept redoing things, and I kept making it worse and worse because I was frustrated. And whenever I build while I'm frustrated, it just doesn't go well, and I just keep making it worse because I'm so frustrated. So after putting 2 to 2.5 hours of work into the interior, I was just like, screw it, and I completely scrapped everything I had done and started over with a clean slate. And I'm actually really glad that I did that because things just went a lot better the second time around. And sometimes I do that, like if I'm really frustrated with what I'm doing, then rather than try to fix it, I'll actually scrap it and start over, because sometimes just having that clean slate to work with really helps a lot. I did kind of feel bad though that I wasted like 2 hours of my time, but it did give me, some ideas for what I wanted to do with the place. But the kitchen is pretty much done at this point, so now I'm actually working on sort of a foyer area here, I guess. Well, not really. I think it's actually pronounced foyer. Is it pronounced foyer or foyer? I've always said foyer, but I think foyer might be the right pronunciation. But anyway, it's just a little entrance area with a chair, and then I also use that accent table, and I did use the move objects cheat to place some objects on it, just filled it in with a bunch of objects and had a little lamp there. I figured that could be a nice little reading spot, or maybe someone could sit to talk to someone who's cooking. because I figure that armchair is probably a bit more comfortable than sitting in the bar stools, especially the bar stools that I have in there now. Those just look a little bit uncomfortable. I also put a coat rack in there because it is an entrance, so I figured a coat rack would be nice. And I tried putting a shoe rack in there, but it just didn't really fit, and then I ended up just putting the plant back in there and I actually put the wall coat rack in, which I thought looked really nice. You know, it's a nice little bit of extra decoration for this room, and I did use the one that had the red coat on it because I was trying to add some red accents here and there because this was a cabin that was, of course, for Valentine's Day. So I didn't really make the cabin over the top Valentine's Day theme. Like, I didn't want it to look like Valentine's Day threw up inside of the cabin and there's red and hearts everywhere and it's just really cheesy. I mean, there is some cheesy touches here and there, but I think I tried to make it a little bit more subtle. But I did take a break from the kitchen area and start on the living room. But then I did go back and change the bar stools because I thought maybe it would be better to have red bar stools in there just because, you know, it's a Valentine's Day themed cabin. So I did put those red bar stools back in. And then now I'm going back over to the living room, and I was thinking about putting an accent table behind the couch, but I figured that might be a little bit too busy. And I was trying to figure out the colors of the rugs and everything, and then I decided it'd be kind of cool to do an L-shaped sofa, because I had seen some other builders do that, and I've been wanting to try it. So I thought it'd be really fun to put that into this house. And then I was messing around with the rugs a little bit more, trying some other colors for them. And I ended up just going back to that rug that I had there. And then I did make the chair red once again to just add a red accent in, just to remind people that this is a Valentine's themed day place. And I just put more modern furniture in here. Like, I didn't really use much furniture from the Outdoor Retreat game pack because it just didn't really fit in with a more modern cabin. Like I said before, I tried furnishing it with actual stuff from the Outdoor Retreat game pack, and it just did not work. Like, I had the rustic floor lamp, and it just looked very odd with modern furniture, and then when I had old rustic furniture, that looked really weird because it just didn't fit in at all, and so I just ended up going pretty much completely modern with the furnishing in here. I did enjoy doing more modern furnishing, though, because it's been quite a while since I've done modern furnishing. I think the last time I did was the beach cottage collab, which was done back in, when was it? I did that back in like October or November, I think. So it's been 3 or 4 months since I've done a modern interior in a house. And I did, as you can see, I did change the blinds to be red because I felt like the white blinds were a little bit too plain, and then I was like, okay, you know, this is a Valentine's Day build, so why not just go red with the blinds? I actually think that looks pretty neat. And then I did make the rug a blue color, so I kind of went with a mix of red and that dark blue in here because of, I guess, to kind of cool down the reds of the Valentine's Day reds. So I do think that that's a pretty neat mix of colors. And then I did of course have to put the heart wall decoration that came with Outdoor Retreat. Like, I just thought that was a really cool touch to add to this room. And I had a little bit of trouble figuring out what to put in the right corner of the room there. So I was going to put a plant in there, but then I was trying not to put too many plants in here because I do have a tendency to go overboard with plants, so I was trying to avoid doing that. So I ended up just putting a guitar in the corner. And I try not to go too overboard as far as clutter goes with this place because, unlike Hemlock Haven, I envisioned this as more of a cabin that you would rent out for a week, so I didn't want to put a lot of personal touches throughout. So there isn't really a ton of furniture in it, but I still feel like it's pretty well filled in. I did have a little bit of trouble trying to figure out what to do with the wall on the left side of the room, though, because I wanted to have paintings on it, but then I didn't want to just go filling every wall with paintings, because sometimes you can have too many paintings in a room, and I was trying to avoid doing that. I was trying to avoid having it look over-decorated, so what I ended up doing instead was putting that wood paneling on that wall, because I felt like that added enough variety to the wall that it didn't really need to have paintings on it. So by doing that, I didn't have to put any paintings on. And then I also put it on the wall behind the fireplace, which I thought looked really nice. So this room does have a mix of wood paneling and white wallpaper, which, like I said, is what I noticed a lot of the modern cabins had in them. And then I was just going back over to the other side and changing up the coloring some to try and make that side go with the red and blue item theme. So I do like it more after I change the items from being green to being red and blue. And then right now I'm putting in a little office area. I really do wish I had laptops though, because I would have put a laptop on this desk instead, because it would make a lot more sense that they would bring a laptop, but I do like having computers so that Sims can entertain themselves while they're on their vacation, because sometimes, you know, like if you send your Sims, like when I send them on vacation, I don't always do it to explore or like have them collect and stuff like that. Sometimes it's nice just to send them off somewhere else to relax and kind of do their normal day-to-day things, I guess. So that's just why I put a computer in here. And if you don't really want your Sims using computers while they're on their vacation, you can easily just get rid of it, and then they'll still have a nice desk for I guess kids can do their homework at it or whatever. Like, it's still useful to have a desk there, I think. And I was gonna put a corkboard behind it, but then I realized that since this isn't a place that people are really living in, you wouldn't really have a corkboard with all this clutter on it, so I just put a painting in there instead. The main area of the cabinet is done at this point though, so now I'm moving on to the master bedroom. So this one I did go for a romantic red theme, of course, and then I did use wood paneling on the walls also because I really wanted to give this room a very cozy feeling. So I did use this modern red bed, and instead of end tables I want to do something a little bit different. So what I did was I actually used shelves, so I just made the shelves black so it looked like they matched the bed, and then just had them go from the side of the bed over to the wall. So it kind of had a built-in look, which I thought was kind of cool, and it was kind of neat to try that. And then I did of course put in the little bear item that came with the recent patch, so I had to of course add that somewhere into this house, and I was going to put it out in the living room, but I felt like it was a little bit too busy to have in the living room, and I thought it'd be cuter to have it in the bedroom, so it's right there. And then you've also got some plants and some books on the end tables or shelves there, so that was I really do like how that looks, so I'm definitely going to try that shelf end table thing again in future houses. And if you're doing an actual house, like if this was an actual house, then I would have put some clutter underneath of them, but then since this was a cabin, I just didn't want it to get too cluttered, so I only put stuff on top of them. And as far as the rug under the bed goes, I did use that red rug, and I was trying to figure out what to do with this wall over here, but I didn't want to have a painting on it because I felt like the paintings didn't take enough space. And I did use the medium height walls, so that did give me a little bit more wall space to fill in, and I rarely use the medium height walls. But what I ended up doing to take up space on that wall was I just put in mirrors from the floor to the ceiling, and then of course I did delete a few items, so I had to go put them back in. But I just made floor to ceiling mirrors and then put columns on the side of them, so I thought that was kind of cool, and it was a neat way to use up the space. Because like I said, with the medium height walls, I just had a lot more wall space to fill in, and I rarely use those. So it was a little bit of a challenge to furnish a place that had taller walls. And I did of course put a TV in this room. Once again, I did put a TV in all the bedrooms. I was going to make the dresser that the TV is on red, but I felt like it'd be a little bit over the top to have the dresser be red too, so I just used that one instead, which I think looks a little bit nicer. Like, I didn't want this bedroom to be like motel cheesy. I wanted it to be more of a classy romantic kind of room rather than looking cheesy, and then I just added another plant there and made it red just to give it a nice accent color. And I know it might be a little bit too many plants in this room to put that one right there in the entranceway, but I just wanted something to fill in that space, and this is a cabin after all, so I figured it was fine just to add a little bit more plants into that room. But now moving on to the master bathroom, which really isn't that much bigger than the other one, and it kind of has a weird layout because with how I did because like when I did the bump out, it probably would have been better if I had the door going to the bedroom on the end of it, like right near the kitchen, but I felt like it would look better to have the door centered on that bump out, and then I also didn't want to have the door going into the bedroom like right next to the kitchen. I wanted there to be a little bit of distance away from the kitchen, so because of that I had to do that weird diagonal thing with the bedroom, or with the door going into the bathroom, so that it didn't look too closed off because I didn't want the entrance going into the room to look really closed off. So this bathroom has a different layout than the one next to it, and plus I also didn't want both of the bedrooms to have the same, or both of the bathrooms to have the same exact layout. But I actually think I kind of like the other bathroom more. This one just has a really weird layout, but I guess it does look kind of neat. But I did use that shower slash tub, and I put it right under the window. So I thought it was kind of neat to have a big old window right above the bathtub, so it lets in a lot of light into the room, but then it doesn't ruin the privacy at all, because you can't really see anything if you look in through that window. Like, you might see someone at the sink, but well, I guess with a mirror maybe, but you'd have to be up pretty high to be able to see through that window anyway, so it still is pretty private. And you can still use the bathtub even with the toilet right next to it. I did test that out, of course, and they could still get into it perfectly fine. And I did play test the house a little bit, and from what I noticed, like, everything that they need to use worked. Although I tried having a sim use the dresser that's in the master bedroom, and they couldn't. They just said that they couldn't get to it. I'm wondering if that's because there's a TV on it, but that's not really a big deal because they should be able to use the one in the other bedroom. So if they really do need to use a dresser while they're on vacation, they can just use the other one. So I don't really see it being that huge of an issue, but they can get in all the beds, like they can get into the bed in the master bedroom perfectly fine. They can use the toilet and the sink and the bathtubs and all of that perfectly fine. The kitchen is also fully functional, you know, and you'll see the Sims using some of that stuff in the showcase part of the video. But I did have a little bit of trouble trying to figure out what wallpaper and floor tile I want to use, so I just settled on that floor tile that you see there, and I think I did keep this wall. I think this was the wall that I ended up using, because I did want this bathroom to have a little bit more of a rustic look, and then to keep things simple, I just used the same wallpaper and floor tile in the other bathroom, because, you know, I figured a rental place like this might just use the same kind of wall and flooring in both the bathrooms, like there wouldn't really be a lot of difference between the two. But I did use a different cabinet, so I used a more childlike cabinet in here, and then I also used that turtle, I guess that was supposed to be like a decal for the pools, but I used that as a bath mat since this is supposed to be like a kid's bedroom, so I gave it more of a fun look, and I used brighter colors on the towels, and then I also added in that little ladybug decoration on top of the cabinet. And I think I actually do like this bedroom or bathroom a little bit more than the other one just because it's brighter. The other one I didn't put a ceiling light in, it's just lit by candles, which is kind of nice. You know, it's also a nice romantic. You know, I think the dimmer lighting is a little bit more romantic. But now moving on to the last bedroom, which is the last room in this house. This room is rather small, but I did put 2 single beds in it, and I gave each of them different sheets. I thought that'd be kind of neat just to have mismatching sheets in the room. And this room is fine for either a child or a teen. I didn't want to make it a child's room with like a ton of toys and child items in it, because I figured that would make it the most versatile to have it work for both. And I also didn't want to put toys in it because I figured this is a rental property, so the owner of the place probably isn't going to leave toys. And plus I figure if you bring kids, then you might want to have them come with their own toys rather than using toys that are left behind somewhere. You know, once again, you know, keeping with the whole thing of not really putting a ton of personal touches into the place. But I do really like this room. It's a lot more bright than the other one is. You know, it's kind of it kind of contrasts the other bedroom and the bathrooms as well, but I really like it. And then on the shelf here, I did put a TV since both rooms do have TVs. And instead of putting one of the cheapest TVs, I did just put in the smallest flat screen TV. So this cabin's a little bit more high end, I guess. Maybe a little bit more high end than Hemlock Haven because of the modern furnishing in it, although it is quite a bit cheaper because it is smaller. I think this is about 1,100 simoleons a day to rent, which is actually really expensive, but it is cheaper than Hemlock Haven, which I think was like 1,500 a day. But you know, both these places are pretty expensive. And I had a hamper under the TV at first, but then I just swapped it out for a bookshelf because I want to take up a little bit more space under there, but then I didn't want to put a plant or something underneath of it, so I thought that a bookshelf would be a little bit better. And I thought it'd be kind of neat to use a train toy as a bookend. We are at the end of the building portion of the video though, so I hope you'll enjoy the rest of this video.